All right, good morning or good afternoon, everybody. This is an After Effects tutorial for what I call Nuke the World or Nuke Vancouver. So what we're going to do today is we are going to be working in Adobe After Effects CC 2017. I am aware that maybe some of your programs might be upgraded, but you should still be able to do a lot of these functions. If not, feel free to raise your hand or let me know and I will make adjustments as needed. Okay, so as we go forward, I will stop and try to explain some of these things, but let's just jump right into it. Okay, so here is the interface for After Effects. I'm going to assume that we've already gone through this once before, so there are a few items you're going to need for this tutorial. A, you're going to need the Nuke clip. So I usually provide a Nuke the World class folder. Here is the Nuke clip. You can just drag and drop it into your project panel. All right. So that's the Nuke clip. And here in our project panel, we can see that we have a nukeclip.mov, which means it's a QuickTime file. The size is 1920 by 1080 at a 1.0 aspect ratio. It's also 16 seconds long and 25 frames if you measure that at 29.97 frames per second. We're going to change this so that will affect the duration later on. This is also millions of colors with no plus sign after it, which means that there's no embedded alpha channel. And it's H.264, which means that the codec compression is quite heavy. It's probably been filmed in a DSLR. I know because I filmed it with a DSLR. Also, that we can see a waveform pattern indicating that this has audio enabled, and it's enabled at 48 kilohertz, 16 bits. So this project panel is very useful to tell us about the items in our actual composition. So we need that. Now, as I indicated before, we have to change the duration of this Nuke clip. So, well, actually, we have to change the frames per second. So first thing we want to do is right-click on this Nuke clip, 3, 2, 1, click, and go to Interpret Footage, Main. That's Interpret Footage, Main. Click. Instead of 29.97, let's do 23.976. That'll give us our duration. That's all we need to change in here. Press OK. Boom. And now you can see that if you measure it at 23.976 frames per second, we actually have 21 seconds and 1 frame. Okay, excellent. Now the next thing I want to pull your attention to is that I give you this Nuke image sequence. Inside the Nuke image sequence, we have a whole bunch of TIFF files. And you'll see Nuke render 0000. What this is called is an image sequence. Whenever you work with visual effects, we don't actually like working with video files. We prefer to work with still images. This way, when it renders, if the computer crashes, we can just pick up on the last frame that it rendered. And some of these images can take days to render. So that's why. If you do it in a video file and it crashes, you'd have to start all from the beginning again. So we love image sequences. Now, here's a big misconception. What I don't want you to do is highlight all of these and then drag and drop them into here, because what you'll get is a whole bunch. You'll actually get 64 still images. It'll be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. You don't want that. An image sequence is designed so that it can come as one item. So if I drag and drop this into my panel, it interprets it as an image sequence. So you can have Nuke render 0000 to 0064. That means that it reads it as an image sequence. Also, you can do it a different way, but do an Nuke import file, and then you click on the first file and you make sure that this TIFF sequence has the check mark beside it. If it does, you press import and it will ask you, do you want to bring it in with the alpha channel, straight unmatted? Yeah. Same thing, just a different way of doing it. Okay, I'm going to delete that last one. Okay, so we have a Nuke render, we have the Nuke clip. Right on, we're good to go. But now, again, this is at 30 frames per second. So let's again change this to 23.976. So what I do is I right click, interpret footage, main, 23.976. Press OK. All right, cool. Now we have it at Nuke render. We have 64 frames in this image sequence, 1920 by 1080 at a 1.0 aspect ratio. We also see that it's 2 seconds long with 17 frames. It has trillions of colors, so it's a very high quality. It has a plus sign after it and means that it has an alpha channel embedded within the image sequence. And it's been the alpha channel has been interpreted straight. It has been unmatted or unused, which is good. All right. If it sounds technical, it's because it is. Welcome to Visual Effects. Here we go. So the first thing we want to do is let's take our new clip and let's make a new composition with it. So the easiest way to do this is to drag it down into the Create New Comp icon, which is here. I click, I drag, and I drop it into this icon here, third from the left. It looks like a film strip. 3, 2, 1, click. Release. All right. Now you might have a different setup than I do. I just realized mine's kind of funky. So let's see. I'll go to Window, Workspace. I just want to go into Standard. There we go. This probably looks more familiar to you. Again, the Windows workspaces will kind of set you up if you lost something. If you don't see a panel, you can just turn it on and you'll see the panels here. So I'm sure yours will look different. This is a program I bought a little while ago, but you just really need effects and presets. Don't worry, I'm not going to ask you to do anything crazy. Okay. Whew. Now, what we want to do. I don't know what we want to do. Oh yeah, okay. Nuke clip. We get the Nuke render. First thing we want to do is we want to drag this on top of this layer. So just think of this as this is one layer, there's another layer, there's another layer, another, and so forth. So I take this Nuke render and I put it not under it, I put it on top, like here. Boom. All right. Okay, done. No, not done. So what we do know is that if we move our time indicator, at 21 seconds, we have this thing. Let's just go to the beginning, and I'm going to turn off the visibility for this so we can watch the actual clip. If you click on this blue playhead, you can move and see what's happening in your clip. I'm also working at a third resolution. If you work at a lower resolution, you can work faster. So now I press spacebar, and let's see what's happening. Okay, it looks like downtown Vancouver. Okay, we got a really handsome guy there. Oh, look at that handsome guy. He's like, oh no, rent is too expensive here. What am I gonna do? Where am I gonna live? I can't pay the rent. I'm gonna run away. Alright. So I basically went on top of a rooftop in Gastown and shot this for teaching purposes. So, what I want to do now. I'll turn on the visibility for this Nuke render cloud. So what I want to do is I want to put this Nuke clip right about here in between these buildings. The reason why is if I leave it here, say, my character is going to go over it, and that would mean a lot of roto. So I want to put this cloud somewhere like where it's not in the way of him crossing. See what I mean? So I could put it up there, then I don't have to worry about him overlapping the image. But as you can see, look at this. Look at this Nuke cloud. Crazy, hey? It goes from here, and then at 3 seconds, oh, just joking, it's gone. No, we can't have that. So what we have to do is that we have to do something called time remapping, which means to extend the duration of this Nuke render from 64 frames all the way to 21 seconds. All right, so, whew, definitely had my coffee this morning. What we'll do first is let us do the time remapping first. So right click on here, go to time, enable time remapping, and 3, 2, 1, click. If you've done it correctly, you should see 2 keyframes, one here, one there. That should appear. If you ever double click on this layer, so watch this, I double click, it'll take me into something called the layer panel. You don't want to do that. Basically, the layer panel makes you look at the layer all by itself without looking at the other layers combined. It's kind of the same thing for footage, but this is a render, so it's a little bit different. Composition is like the main window that you want to work in. It's everything combined. Okay, so now that we have these 2 keyframes, here's the thing. If I put this all the way here, look what happens. So it kind of moves up, and then it freezes. It stops. See how it doesn't move at all? So what I want to do is I want to move this all the way over there. So you should have your keyframe and your bar extended to the end, because this way it moves throughout the entire clip. I'll move that a little bit further. Okay. If you look at your actual physical keyboard, above the arrows on your keyboard, you should see the keys Home, H-O-M-E key, and the End key. If you press the Home key, boom, it takes you to the beginning of your timeline. If you press the End key, boom, takes you to the end of your timeline. Now look at the cloud. Look at the nuclear cloud. The beginning, end. So it grows, but now it grows at a much longer pace, and we have this new cloud for the whole duration. All right. Being good students, you want to do a file save. So find a place to save this. Okay, save. You can call it whatever you want. Call it Nuke tutorial, but as long as we save our progress. Okay, so now that we have the new cloud for the entire duration, what we want to do now is we want to scale this cloud because it's too big, right? So make sure that you have your Nuke render selected like it's highlighted and press the S key for scale, and you should see scale appear. Now you should see 100% by 100%, which indicates that the X value is 100 and the Y value is 100. And beside it you'll see this lock, which means if I change one, I change the other. And that's pretty good. So what we want to do is scale it down to 64 is pretty good. Okay, so take a moment and scale it down to 64. Good. Now I want you to position it correctly. Position it right between, right around there. Actually, right about there. Now, I need to look through it. I need to see that it's positioned kind of where I want it to be. So I highlight the layer and I press T for transparency or opacity. And I'm going to just lower that opacity so I can look through it. Alright, now I can kind of see where it's going. Now, if you use your middle mouse scroll wheel, you can zoom in or zoom out. And if you use your space bar, you can click and move. Scroll in, click, and move. Give it a try now. Alright, so now I don't like that. You know what, this can work. I don't want it to get into this rig where that'll be too hard to cut out. You'll see what I mean in a second. Alright, so now that you've got it, this will matter, guys. It matters where you place it. So I would probably put it right here before this phallus shaped object building and before here. Alright, you're going to see why, because we have to do some rotoscope work. Okay, so now that we've lowered the opacity, I want you to file save. Okay, do another file save. This way we save our work. If we screw up, we can always come back to this point later on. Get your pen tool out. This is the pen tool here underneath the effect key. You'll see a pen tool. I'm going to select it. 3, 2, 1, click. Notice that it's highlighted in blue. I make sure I'm on the right layer, which is this Nuke render cloud layer, not the Nuke clip layer. Now what I'm trying to do is I want to cut all along here. Okay, and I'm going to cut around there. That way, once it's cut, I'm going to invert it and it'll look like the cloud is behind those buildings. If that doesn't make sense, just watch what I do. So first thing I do is I'm going to cut here. Oh, by the way, Control Z, I'm going to undo. Let's put our position indicator at the end of the, so you can see where the cloud ends, not where it begins, right? The shape changes, so it matters for where you're cutting. Alright, what we do now is I cut, and I cut, I click. Now watch this. I click and hold, and then I drag down, and it creates a Bezier curve. That's called a Bezier curve when it has those handles. So I can get that little bit of an angle there. I can also hold down Alt and get there. Okay, cool. Now I need to get over here. Oops. Oh, screwed up. Pen tool is a real pain, guys. So edit, redo. There we go. Now watch this. If I put it over here, look how that kind of dips there. I don't want that. So what I do want is I hold down the Alt key, and you see how my icon shifts? I put it at a 90-degree angle. I release everything, and then I click again. There we go. Click, 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 click. Now I'm just going to do something fast and loose, guys. So this probably wouldn't pass in the real world. You'd get right up there at, you'd work at probably full resolution, and you'd get right into the pixel. Like, look at that. That's sloppy work. So you guys should work better than I am. I'm just doing this for teaching purposes. I'm not going to put you through the whole painstaking work. I imagine this is not a visual effects course that I'm teaching, especially on this DSLR footage. All right, cool. Now I've cut it out, roughly. You guys will do better, I'm hoping. Okay, so now that we've cut it out, look what's happening. Oh, great. I see the bottom of a cloud, and that totally looks horrible. That's not what we want, but just a second. Highlight the layer. Toggle down this mask property. Toggle down this mask 1 property. Now, if you see two masks, if you see mask 1, mask 2, you did it wrong. Slap your hand, say, bad student, bad student. Just joking. Delete one, you should only have one mask. When you start to have multiple masks, it gets problematic later on, guys. So start again. At least you did your saving. If you got to this point, give yourself a pat on the back, mental high five. You're a good student. I love you. Now, click on this inverted checkbox. 3, 2, 1, click. Well, bam! Now look at that. We got some kind of, it looks like it's more behind the buildings. So, I also want to turn up the transparency again. So press highlight the layer, press T for transparency, oops, T again, and bring it up. Boom! Now we have our nuclear cloud. I know it still looks computer generated and whatnot, but it looks good. If you want to see it without the mask, so toggle mask and shape path visibility, click this icon, 3, 2, 1, click. Let's just take a look at it. All right, it's okay. Yeah. Okay, at least now it looks like he's actually looking at something and not, just the high rent. So, all right, cool. Now we've got to work on something called integration, which means how we make it look photorealistic. Okay, so let us first start by highlighting the Nuke render, and go to your effect. Let's go to brightness and contrast, color correction, brightness and contrast. 3, 2, 1, click. Now let's put the brightness to -15. Let's put the contrast to 2. Now you can do whatever you want, but this is just a guide, okay? So we've still got a lot to do. Just bear with me. So next thing we do is let us make a layer, new, solid. That's layer, new, solid. Now I want you to click on this color box. Yours might be a different color. Click on it and then find the orangest color you can. So if you want, you can copy along and just type in FF7200. That'll work with me. So press OK. And let's call this glow. All right, cool. So now we've got an orange solid. I want you to press T for transparency. All right, on the glow layer, make sure it's highlighted. Press T for transparency. Let's put this down to 25 so we can see what's going on. There. All right, now let's go to frame 0. So here we are, frame 0. You can see on the time indicator. I want you, make sure you have the pen tool. Now what I want you to do is I want to cut an orange glow here. So you're going to need to learn how to use this roto tool, or the pen tool, I mean. So let's try this again. I use my middle mouse wheel, scroll in, spacebar, move, middle mouse, scroll, too much. All right, there we go. Okay, so check me out. I have my glow layer selected, pen tool selected, click, click, hold, drag, 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 and click. All right. It's not the most beautiful circle, but I'm just getting started. Okay, so now on the glow layer, press M for mask. And there's mask 1. I toggle it up. I toggle down to see all of the properties. All right. Now, let's put the feather out to 49. Boom. So now look at the edges are now softer. You see that? When you up the feather, you have softer edges. So 49. All right. Now, here is the mode. You might not see the mode. That's all good. Instead, you should see at the bottom of your screen toggle switches and modes. So press this and you want to see the mode. If you don't see the toggle switches and modes, your screen might be like this. So you might have to actually raise your screen up to see the toggle switches and modes. Anyway, change the mode from normal to add. 3, 2, 1, click. All right. Now, let us press T for transparency and raise your transparency. You got it. Now, and that's 100. That's a little too strong for me. Usually students tend to overdo it. It's subtlety that's kind of the key here. I'm going to leave it at 56 for now. Okay, the problem is, check this out, guys. This is the home key. Look where the glow is. I press the end key. My glow didn't move. Right? So we need to animate that layer so that the glow moves. Okay, so here we go. File, save, be good students, everyone's friends. Okay, now we need to change from the pen tool to the selection tool. So click the selection tool. Good. I'm going to turn this back on so I can see my mask. Okay, so what's going to happen here is that I need to animate the mask path with one keyframe here to have another keyframe here so that it moves upwards. So what I do is highlight the glow layer, press M for mask, and then you see mask path here. The way to make anything move is to click on the stopwatch. 3, 2, 1, click. So it makes one keyframe at this point in time. It's going to remember where all of these points are. All right? So now I move it to the very end. Everything moves up. But now this time I click and I drag everything up. All right. I'm going to do that 2 separate ways because sometimes people click on the wrong thing. So the easiest way is you could click somewhere else and then click on mask 1 and then just move everything up at once. Or you might have done this, might have made a mistake. If you shift click, you can move 1 point at a time. And that kind of sucks, but yeah, sometimes it happens. So again, clicking away and then clicking on mask 1, it has everything highlighted, all the points are solid, and I can just move that all up at once. Or else if you need to, move them all up. At the end of the day, you should see just one keyframe here at the beginning, one keyframe at the end. So if I zoom out, I'll turn off the mask path visibility. I press the home key, end key. See, now the glow moves upward with the nuclear cloud. All right. Whew. File, save. File, save. You're doing great, guys. All right. So the thing is, with noise and grain, we have to talk about. Okay, so our nuclear cloud is a computer-generated image, which means that it's not natural. It's too perfect. It's too uniform with everything. Whenever you're recording something, there's always noise or grain embedded within an image. It just comes standard. So the best way we identify noise and grain in an image is by viewing the blue channel. So right now we have the RGB channel. So if I click on this one, it sees the red, green, and blue channel embedded together. Let's take a look at the blue channel. So if I press if I press play, okay, so I want you to take a look. Usually you can see it in the shadows really good. There. You see all that kind of subtle noise that's moving and jumping around in the image? This is what happens with H.264 especially. You have all this kind of pixely jumping around. I don't know if Camtasia is picking it up good enough, but it's there. You can see it, right? Alright, but take a look at this cloud. There's nothing jumping around in it. You can see it in the sky around it, but you see all this movement happening over here, happening around it, but not in the cloud. So, that's why we use the blue channel to look for noise and grain. So, it's there. It's just too picture perfect. We have to add grain to make this better. So, what we'll do is we go to Effect, Noise and Grain, and let's go to noise. Now, you could go match grain. For this tutorial, like match grain, what it does is that here you got it gives you a preview because it's so heavy on your processor. You make it match your source. Our Nuke clip is the source, so this is how much it's going to add, and that feels like too much. So you'd have to tweak it a little bit. Size, softness. I'm just eyeballing at a glance. Alright, cool. And at the end of the day, maybe you can just blend it with the original. Okay. And then when you're done, you put it into full-on final output, which applies it to the whole image. So here we go. If we press. Now notice how much longer it takes to build up a RAM preview because it's so heavy on your processor. So that's one way, but it takes some time to get it right. So I'm going to delete that for now. The way we're going to do for this is we'll go Effect, Noise and Grain, Noise. And let's just put it up to 14%. Okay, let's maybe even make it 11. Okay, we're not going for super perfect for today. Okay, now we have got to check out, look at how defined these curves are, but look at the clouds around it. In fact, this is the main thing with a lot of visual effects that I find the problem. You see where this foreground, this area here, I can see all the sharp edges, right? But back there it gets a little bit blurry. That's how I know that there's depth in this image. But yet, when I see this cloud, it's all sharp. So what I want to do is highlight my cloud layer, go to Effect, Blur and Sharpen, and let's try either Fast Box Blur or Gaussian Blur. You guys might have Fast Blur, you might have Fast Box Blur. Both are okay. I'm going to use Gaussian Blur in this instance. So I go to Gaussian Blur, and I'm going to turn it up to 3.5. There. That softens everything out just a little bit. See what a difference it makes if I turn it off? Boom. If I turn it on? Boom. So much better integration now. Alright. So now, let's go into Effect, Color Correction, Curves. 3, 2, 1. Now what I want to do is I want to lower the midtones. Oh, curves are, here are the shadows, this bottom part of the curve. This is the midtone region, and these are the highlights. So the highlights, I can adjust the highlights and the shadows and the midtones. I can also work in the red channel, the blue channel, and the green channel. This one doesn't really have a lot of stuff. It was a grayscale image. So all I want to do is go into my RGB channel and lower the midtones a little bit. Just a touch. Okay, cool. Alright, now that's got some decent integration happening with it. So let's do a file save. Okay, so I'm going to end the recording. This is Nuke, part 1. Good luck.